My name's Mike, I'm an English teacher from the United States, and in this video today we are talking about 8 common mistakes that you might be making when introducing yourself in English. The first mistake some people make is that they do this. Hello, my name is Mike, I'm 35 years old, I'm from the United States, I'm an English teacher, my favorite color is blue, and my hobbies are shopping and watching TV. Although everything I said was grammatically correct, unless you're speed dating or something like that, that's way too much information. 90% of the time, the only thing that you need to tell someone when introducing yourself is your name, and maybe 1 or 2 other pieces of information, depending on the situation and why you are introducing yourself. For example, I began this video with "I'm an English teacher from the United States" because that helps you understand who I am and why you should listen to me. If the person you are introducing yourself to wants other information, they'll ask for it. The second mistake that a lot of people make is that they say something like, "Please allow me to introduce myself." Now, if you're giving a speech or a presentation, then saying something like "please allow me to introduce myself" is usually fine. However, when you're meeting someone one-on-one, that is almost always too formal. Most of the time, when meeting someone one-on-one, we just say something like, "Hi, I'm Mike." Or if the situation is a bit more formal, "Good afternoon, my name's Mike." But unless you are presenting to an audience, I really don't recommend saying "please allow me to introduce myself." The third mistake is saying "I'm from" or "I come from" with a place that you are not really from. For example, if you were born in Brazil and you lived in Brazil for most of your life before moving to the United States, even though you now live in the United States, you are not from the United States. You are from Brazil. Now, yes, there are situations where a person might feel more connected to their new country than their original country. In those cases, especially if they have lived there for a long time, they might say that they are from that place. And I'm not saying that those people are wrong. I just want you to understand that when someone asks "where are you from," they're usually asking about where you grew up, because they want to know about your background, not just where you live right now. Also, if you are someone who was born in one country but now lives in another country, a very natural way to say this is, "I live in the US, but I'm originally from Brazil." The fourth mistake is that instead of saying "I'm from" or "I come from," people sometimes say "I'm come from," which is not correct. So remember, you can say "I'm from" or you can say "I come from." They both mean the same thing, but you can't say "I'm come from." Fifth, we have "my job is." Although it is grammatically correct, we use this to tell someone how we feel about our job, not what it is that we do. For example, you could say, "My job is challenging," or "My job is exciting." But you can't say, "My job is a teacher." For this, we would usually say, "I'm a teacher," "I work as a teacher," or "I teach." Our sixth mistake is one that I often hear people make when talking about their education. This is "I'm graduated from." The problem here is that graduated is the past tense form of the verb graduate, and when we use the past tense form of a verb, we do not use "I'm." Just like we don't say "I'm went" or "I'm drank," we also don't say "I'm graduated." So instead of saying "I'm graduated from," the correct thing to say is just "I graduated from." For example, I graduated from St. Mary's College of Maryland. But honestly, unless it's not clear whether or not you graduated, in conversation we usually just say "I went to," or I studied at. The seventh mistake is not really a mistake, but it's something that just sounds a little bit weird and I don't usually hear native speakers say. This is my hobby is and my hobbies are. And I think the main reason that this sounds weird is that if you say my hobbies are and then you give two hobbies, it makes it sound like those are your only hobbies. And maybe you only have two hobbies. That's fine, but it still just sounds a little bit weird. So instead of saying my hobby is or my hobbies are, I recommend just saying I like, I enjoy, or I'm into, which means I'm interested in. For example, I like cooking, or I'm really into fitness. You could also use I do a lot of, or I spend a lot of time. For example, I do a lot of painting, or I spend a lot of time at the pool. Or if it's something that you've been doing recently but you didn't do in the past, then you could use present perfect continuous tense. For example, I've been going to the gym a lot recently. Also, if someone asks you about your hobbies, please don't just say, I like shopping, or I like watching TV, because those are things that literally everybody does. It's okay if those are your hobbies, but you should try to give them just a little bit more information. For example, instead of just saying, I like shopping, you could say something like, I like shopping for sneakers, or I like going to used bookstores. Or instead of just saying, I like watching TV, you could say something like, I like watching Korean TV dramas, or I'm really into Game of Thrones. And our final mistake is one that some people make when talking about how many brothers and sisters they have. In English, the word that we have that includes both brothers and sisters is siblings. For example, I have one older brother and no sisters. Therefore, I have one sibling. The problem is that some people translate from their first language, and because of this, they think that I have two siblings means my parents have two children. And that's not what it means. I have two siblings means that your parents have three children, because siblings is about how many brothers and sisters you have, not how many children your parents have. So when telling someone how many siblings you have, count your brothers and count your sisters, but do not count yourself. And if you'd like to learn more about introducing yourself in English, make sure to watch these videos right here. That's all for today. Thank you for watching.